This happened last month, right on my birthday. I had just turned 25 and figured it'd be fun to celebrate with a live stream. I had been streaming for a couple of years. Even though I wasn't making a ton of money, I loved connecting with my friends and building a little community. But I've never stopped thinking about what happened that night. The stream started pretty normally. I set up my camera and adjusted the lights. Everything felt right. As I chatted and played my game, I got a donation. It was from a name I didn't recognize, and the message was strange. It talked about the dark history of my building. I thought it was a prank, so I laughed it off. I should have paid more attention. After that night, things began to get weird. It was late and I was in my apartment gaming. Then I heard a noise, but it made the hairs on my arms stand up. Maybe it was just my imagination, I told myself. I glanced at my webcam. It was still recording. But then I thought I saw something moving behind me in the reflection of my computer screen. My heart raced, but my instincts told me to ignore it. I kept playing. The next night, things got worse. I went live again, and a few comments appeared in my chat about whispers. "Do you have someone else in the room?" one viewer asked. My skin crawled. I was alone, or at least I thought I was. As I played, shadows seemed to flicker past my webcam. I looked around, but there was nothing. My heart started to pound. I really wanted to ignore this. Maybe it was just a glitch, right? Each night became a challenge. I caught myself looking over my shoulder every few minutes. The way the shadows danced unnerved me. I felt cold, even with my windows shut tight. One night, while I was gaming late, the whispers got louder. The viewers kept asking if I heard them too. I felt terrified, but I shook it off. That tight knot in my stomach wouldn't go away. After a few more days, I could hardly sleep. I thought, is this a ghost? Some glitch? I began to dread logging onto my stream because it wasn't just about the game anymore. Something else was there. Every time I looked at the chat, it felt like I was being watched. Then came the night I'll never forget. I looked into the camera, and I felt it. Something was behind me. "Is anyone there?" I asked, forcing a laugh. The chat exploded with panic. My heart dropped. I turned slowly, and I swear, there was nothing. But then I heard it, like a breath. Then a whisper echoed, "You're not alone." I froze. "What?" I said, looking back at the camera. A chill ran down my spine. What was happening? I still can't decide if it was real or if I was just losing my mind. I haven't streamed since that night. The shadows haven't left me. And I still wonder who sent that donation. The days turned into a blur. I didn't want to leave my apartment, but I knew I had to find out what was going on. The whispers haunted me. I felt trapped. Everyone around me went about their lives while I was stuck in mine, terrified of shadows and sounds behind me. I finally decided to dig into the history of my building. I grabbed my laptop and sat on my bed, trying to shake off the anxiety that built in my chest. I looked up everything I could find. I stumbled across an old newspaper article about a fire that had happened decades ago. A family had lived in the very apartment I was now calling home. They didn't survive. My heart raced. I clicked around, searching for more. I found many other incidents connected to the building, including strange occurrences and reports of whispers. People had complained about feeling watched when they were alone. I wasn't alone in this. That thought both comforted and terrified me. Just then, a loud bang echoed from the kitchen. My blood ran cold. I held my breath, gripping the edge of my bed. "Hello?" I called out weakly. Silence. Slowly, I rose from the bed and edged toward the kitchen. My heart felt like it might burst. I turned on the light. Nothing looked out of place. I let out a shaky breath. Maybe it was just a pipe or the wind. Whatever it was, I needed to calm down. As I stepped back into my room, my phone vibrated, interrupting the stillness. A notification popped up. Another donation. I blinked in disbelief. I hadn't even streamed in weeks. With shaking hands, I opened the app. It was a message from the same username as before. My stomach dropped. "You forgot about us," it read. "We want to play." What did that mean? I could feel a chill creeping across my skin. I tapped a reply, my fingers trembling. "Who are you?" A moment later, I got a response. Are you ready to listen? Panic shot through me. I wanted to throw my phone against the wall, but something stopped me. It was this fear of the unknown, the overflowing dread that consumed my thoughts. Suddenly, the lights flickered. My heart raced. I glanced towards the window. The shadows outside felt deeper, denser. Then I heard it again, whispers. You're not alone. That voice, so clear, surrounded me. Leave me alone, I shouted. The room fell silent, but the air felt thick, heavy. I reached for my phone, ready to call for help, but before I could dial, everything went dark. My breath caught in my throat. I felt a presence behind me, looming. Who's there? I whispered, my voice barely audible. Then, a cold hand rested on my shoulder. I gasped and spun around, but there was nothing, just silence. I stumbled back into my room, my heart ready to explode. I fumbled for the light switch, but before I could reach it, the whispers grew louder, enveloping me, drowning out everything else. And then I saw it, something glowing at the edge of my vision. I turned to look, and that S when I saw it. A figure standing in the shadows, watching me. I could barely breathe. I blinked hard, unable to process what I was seeing. The figure in the shadows remained still, its outline faint but unmistakable. My heart thumped erratically in my chest, and for a moment, I thought about running. But something rooted me to the spot. Curiosity fought against terror. Who are you? I managed to croak out, my voice shaky. The figure didn't move. It felt like time stretched, just me and that presence. The whispers faded into a murmur, replaced by the sound of my own heartbeat. Slowly, the glow increased, illuminating the figure, a child, maybe around 10 years old. Their face was obscured, but I could see their eyes, wide and dark. Help us, the child whispered, almost too softly to hear. A chill ran down my spine. Help you with what? I asked, desperation creeping into my voice. I didn't want to provoke whatever this was, but I had to know. Remember, they said simply. With those words, the glow flickered out, leaving me in darkness once more. I staggered back, panic flooding my mind. I reached for my phone, frantically pressing the power button. The screen lit up, casting a pale blue glow. But when I turned to ask the child another question, they were gone. Just shadows, just silence. Think, I whispered to myself. What did I need to remember? I felt my thoughts racing as I dropped onto my bed, my hands trembling as I pulled my phone closer. I opened the donation app again, my fingers hovering over the screen. Maybe there was some clue there. But before I could scroll, another ping interrupted me. A new message. Find the box. The sender was the same user from before. Count to 3. What box? I glanced around my room, feeling uneasy. There was no box in my line of sight. What box? I texted back, the anxiety building in my chest like a weight I couldn't shake off. No answer. Then, unnerving stillness filled the air. I stood up, the phone gripped tightly in my palm. I glanced toward the kitchen again, a nagging feeling pushing me to look around. Whatever I was supposed to find wasn't going to wait for me. I took a deep breath, calming my racing heart as best I could. My footsteps echoed softly on the hardwood floor as I walked toward the kitchen. I felt the air thicken again, an unwelcoming presence looming behind me, just out of reach. That S when my eyes caught something unusual on the counter, a wooden box. It was small, ornate, locked with a delicate latch that looked as though it hadn't been touched in years. I stepped forward, heart pounding, and reached for it. Count to 3, I remembered the text, suddenly feeling vulnerable. But there was no going back now. I had to open it. 1, I whispered, fumbling with the latch. 2, I said, clutching the box tightly, worried it might somehow disappear. 3, I opened it. A gust of cold air escaped, and with it came the whispers again, drowning out everything else. The contents shifted, and I gasped as an array of old trinkets spilled out, glimmering in the light. There, at the center, was a photograph of a family. The same family from the fire, the same faces that had once lived in my apartment. Somewhere in the background, a voice echoed, "You shouldn't have opened it." I froze, dread coursing through my veins as I turned slowly, realizing I wasn't alone anymore. Couldn't breathe. The air turned thick, heavy with the weight of what I'd done. The figure whispered again, this time clearer, you shouldn't have opened it. It stood before me, a shadow with striking detail, the same child I had seen moments earlier. There was something pleading in their eyes, but also an urgent fear that made me take a step back. My heart raced. Who are you? What do you want? I stammered, gripping the wooden box as if it were a shield. Help us, the child repeated, but their voice trembled, almost breaking. The familiarity of their tone sent shivers down my spine. You have to remember, you're the only one who can. What do you mean? I asked, glancing back at the photo. The corners of the picture glowed ominously, and I quickly turned my gaze away. The child's eyes darkened, and the whispers returned. They're coming for you. If you don't remember, it will be too late. A cold wave washed over me. I had to think. What am I supposed to remember? But the child just shook their head, retreating slightly into the dark, like smoke dissipating into the air. Suddenly, I noticed something in the corner of the kitchen, a shadow darting past the doorway. My pulse quickened again. Is someone there? I yelled, half expecting a response. Silence. But then, I heard a soft rustling noise, followed by a distinct metallic thud from the living room. With a surge of adrenaline, I stepped cautiously toward the sound, leaving the wooden box behind. The air felt electric, charged with a tension that made every nerve in my body scream for me to turn back. As I peered into the living room, the faint light of the street lamp flickered through the curtains. That's when I saw it. A figure stood in the shadows, barely visible. The shape shifted slightly, and an icy knot formed in my stomach. Who are you? I demanded again, trying to steady my voice. The figure didn't respond. Instead, it stepped into the light, revealing a gaunt face with hollow eyes like a reflection of the child I had just seen. My mouth went dry. I'm here to help you remember, the figure said, its voice low and hoarse. Remember what? I asked, my mind racing. The fire. The very word sent a shock through my body. My thoughts flashed to that night, the screams, the heat, the darkness. I swallowed hard, caught in a whirlwind of confusion and fear. Why is this happening to me? I whispered, hoping for clarity. Because you opened the box. Now you must decide. And just like that, the figure faded back into the shadows, leaving me breathless, trembling at the edge of understanding. Decide what? I called after it, my voice echoing into the emptiness. The silence pressed in like a suffocating blanket. I sensed something shifting behind me and froze. That was when I realized the box was no longer on the counter. Panic crashed over me, thicker than before. I turned, ready to flee, but from the corner of my eye, I caught a glimpse of what lay where the box had been. I saw a doorway, one I had never noticed before, its edges shrouded in darkness. My instincts screamed at me to stay away, but curiosity tugged at my feet, pulling me closer. Just before I could stop myself, I stepped forward. I felt the pull of the box, of the promises it held, and of the stories waiting to be uncovered. The chilling whispers echoed again, urging me on. And then the door creaked open. The doorway widened, revealing an abyss of swirling shadows. I hesitated for a moment, caught between fear and an inexplicable pull to know more. The whispers intensified, wrapping around me like tendrils of smoke. Help us, a voice said, but it wasn't the child or the figure from moments before. This voice felt deeper, layered, as if it belonged to multiple souls in unison. I took a tentative step inside. My heart pounded against my ribcage. Instinct screamed for me to turn back, but I pressed onward, curiosity urging me to explore. The air shifted. A chill brushed against my skin, and the quiet hum of the house faded. I felt displaced, as though the room had transformed into a different dimension. As I crossed the threshold, the darkness seemed to envelop me. I squinted into the shadows, trying to find shape and substance amidst the swirling confusion. Tension filled my shoulders. And then, I spotted something glimmering on the floor. A small locket, I picked it up, heart racing. It was familiar, the delicate engravings reminding me of something buried deep within my memory. But I shook my head, trying to clear the fog clouding my thoughts. Opening it, I found a photograph. A family, 2 adults and several children, smiling broadly at the camera. Beneath it, there was a date scratched into the metal, June 19, 2003. The realization hit me like a punch in the gut. That was my birthday. But where were they? What happened to this family? My pulse quickened as shadows flickered around me. Voices murmured from behind, words I couldn't fully grasp. The truth is buried, one of them said, a low growl resonating through the air. I turned quickly, my back pressing against the wall of the hallway. What do you mean? I shouted, more out of desperation than courage. I was losing my grip. Find the truth, the voice echoed, sharper now. Before they find you. The shadows pulsed and twisted as a heaviness settled into my chest. A sudden crash interrupted the tension, like a force trying to break through the barrier between the worlds. I spun around again, but the doorway I had entered from was gone. The curtain of darkness loomed, swallowing my escape route. I felt trapped. Panic surged through me. I had to find a way out. But where would I go? That was when I remembered the box. I needed to feel its weight in my hands, to grasp the source of this madness. But did I even dare return after everything that had happened? My fear was unwavering, but a stubborn urge for resolution pulled me toward the specter of the past. Decide. The child's voice rang out, echoing like a forgotten song, pierced through the haze of my head. But how could I decide anything when the way out had vanished? In desperation, I clutched the locket tight enough to feel its coldness against my palm. I closed my eyes, focusing hard. I had to remember. I had to piece together the fragments of that night, the fire, the lost faces, the sadness. Sudden footsteps pounded from somewhere deep within the shadows, startling me back to reality. I opened my eyes and found a figure rushing toward me, its intent unclear. My breath hitched as it drew closer, allowing no time for questions. And then everything went dark. I jolted awake, gasping for air. The darkness pressed against me, thick and suffocating. I blinked rapidly, trying to adjust to the dim light, but my heart raced. I was still in the hallway, but now it felt different charged. My fingers brushed against the locket. I had dropped it during whatever that was. Panic flooded my mind. How long had I been out? I felt a rush of heat around me, and the shadows twitched like they were alive, reacting to my sudden urgency. Show yourself, I shouted, trying to summon some bravado. Fear threatened to grip me again, but I needed answers. I pushed off the wall, forcing my feet to move. Every step felt heavier, as if the shadows were pulling me down. I searched the darkness, my eyes scanning for any sign of the figure that had approached before I blacked out. Somewhere in the midst of the shadows, I spotted a shimmer reminiscent of the locket. I felt drawn toward it, an instinct urging me forward. As I neared, the shape solidified into a small box, the same one I had seen in the photograph. The edges were worn, its surface covered in what looked like ancient symbols. My heart raced. This had to mean something. I knelt down and reached out, fingertips trembling as I traced the engravings. Please let me understand, I whispered, a shiver coursing through my spine. And then it happened. A voice erupted from the depths of the box, sounding like a chorus of whispers overlapping one another. The truth is here. Time loops, always searching, always lost. I drew back in shock, but I couldn't pull my eyes away from the box. The shadows surged, swirling more violently, as if they were reacting to the revelation. What do you mean by truth? I asked, desperation creeping into my words. What happened to the family in the locket? The box tremored slightly, and the whispers increased in volume. They are intertwined, like roots beneath a dying tree. Find the heart of the night. I frowned, trying to grasp their meaning. Roots? Night? My birthday resonated in the back of my mind, a dark echo. Suddenly, a sharp sound sliced through the tension. The front door of the house banged open, followed by an unmistakable voice on the other side. Is someone there? My heart dropped. It sounded like my best friend. Rachel, but what was she doing here? Her voice cut through the shadowy haze, and I felt a mix of relief and fear. A new pulse of urgency surged through me. I'm here, I shouted back, hoping she'd hear me. But the shadows twisted more violently, snaking around my feet and pulling me away from the box. No, I cried, reaching back desperately, wanting to stay in this space between worlds, the swirling shadows, the whispers, the dark promise of secrets ready to be uncovered. Help us? The voice echoed again. Before she finds you. The realization hit hard. I was no longer sure if I wanted to be found. I was deep in something dark, and it was gripping tighter. Then came the footsteps, much heavier and more ominous than Rachel's. Someone else was in the house. I needed to decide. Stay and face the mystery, or leave and risk everything I had learned. I took a deep breath. In this moment of indecision, the choice felt like a tightrope walk. And then, the shadows let out a cry, one I couldn't ignore. The shadows pulsed again, their cry echoing in my ears. I felt a surge of fear and desperation. Help, I whispered, unsure who I was asking. The whispers from the box intensified, almost drowning out the sound of footsteps. I forced myself to focus. I had to make a decision. Rachel was here, but the other presence felt more menacing. My instincts screamed at me to leave the hallway. I glanced over my shoulder toward the door. Should I go to her or confront the darkness? Suddenly, I felt a sharp tug on my ankle. I gasped, yanking my foot free from a shadow that had latched onto me. Enough! I shouted, feeling a surge of defiance. The shadows thrashed in response, and the whispers turned frantic. Find the heart, they implored, but I was too disoriented to understand. Stay back, I commanded the shadows, forcing myself to stand up. I stumbled toward the front door, my heart racing as I pushed against the dark pull that sought to drag me back. Rachel, I called, urgency creeping into my voice. Get in here. The footsteps grew louder, and I could hear Rachel's frantic breaths mixing with the deep thumps of something else. I didn't want to look back, but curiosity compelled me. When I turned, I caught a glimpse of the figure looming just beyond the threshold of the hallway. A dark silhouette, taller than anyone I had ever seen, its features obscured. I froze, my mind scrambling to make sense of the threat. Who are you? My voice was barely a whisper. Just a seeker, it replied, the voice low and resonating. My skin crawled at the sound as if it felt me shudder. Like you. Before I could process this, Rachel burst into the hallway. Her eyes were wide as she took in the scene, the box, the shadows, me trembling like a leaf. What's going on? She demanded, looking back and forth between me and the figure. Get out! Rachel! I shouted, the urgency making my throat constrict. But to my surprise, she stepped closer. I'm not leaving you. A wave of frustration washed over me. The shadows undulated violently, closing in on us. You don't understand. This isn't safe. Suddenly, the figure took a step forward into the dim light, revealing a face draped in shadows. She's part of it, it hissed, causing Rachel to jump back. You can't abandon her. You must share the truth. Panic surged through me. What truth? I didn't know what this thing was talking about. A part of me wanted to reach for the box, to seek answers, but each moment felt more precarious. And then, with an otherworldly chill, the lights flickered. A low rumble echoed in the house, a warning. Perhaps. My heart raced. We have to go now, I yelled, grabbing Rachel's arm. Before we could move, the shadows converged, ready to engulf us. Find the heart of the night, they chanted, merging into a deafening roar. I squeezed my eyes shut, tugging Rachel towards the door. It was time to escape this unfathomable nightmare. We need to leave. But then everything went dark. I came to in a cold sweat, gasping for air. Darkness still surrounded me, but it felt different. My heart raced as I remembered the chaos that had just engulfed us. I blinked, adjusting to the faint light trickling through a nearby window. Rachel? I croaked, my voice hoarse and shaky. No response. I swung my legs over the side of the bed, a wave of confusion washing over me. Where were we? The room looked familiar, but everything felt off. Shadows lingered in the corners, watching me. I stood up, my knees weak, and searched the room. It was a bedroom mine, I realized, yet the air felt thick, stifling. Rachel! I called again, louder this time. Then I heard it. A soft thud coming from the living room. I moved quietly, cautious not to draw the attention of whatever was lurking in the dark. Each step towards the door felt like a battle against an unseen force trying to pull me back. As I turned the doorknob, an icy jolt of dread coursed through me. I pushed the door open and crept into the living room. The light was dim, but I could make out the furniture. Everything appeared to be in its place, except the atmosphere was heavy with tension. "Rachel," I whispered, my pulse quickening. Then I saw her. She sat on the couch, staring blankly at the wall as if entranced. "Rachel." I rushed over, shaking her shoulder gently. Her eyes fluttered, and she blinked rapidly as though waking from a dream. "What happened?" she asked, her voice trembled. "I don't know," I admitted, my mind racing. "We were in the hallway and then everything went dark." Rachel rubbed her temples, trying to piece it all together, but I could see the fear creeping back into her eyes. "Those shadows, they were real, weren't they?" "Yes," and that figure. I stopped short, remembering how the darkness had converged. That voice said we had to share the truth. But what does that mean? Rachel's expression shifted, a flicker of recognition dawning. The box. The box. I echoed, heartbeat pounding in my ears. My thoughts flashed to it, but the memories felt like fragmented pieces of a puzzle. "What about it?" "They wanted us to find something in it," she said, standing abruptly. "Maybe that's our only way to understand what's happening." I felt a swell of urgency. "Where is it?" "Back in the hallway, I think," she said, hesitating. "No, we need to look somewhere else," I said, recalling the ominous shadows. "They're probably still lurking around." As I tried to reason with her, a chill shot through the room, and the air grew even heavier. The shadows in the corners seemed to shift, swirling ominously. "I can hear them," Rachel whispered, her eyes widening in fear. "They're back." I grabbed her hand, adrenaline surging. "We have to figure this out, together. Fast." Then I noticed the flickering glow coming from the box, faint but distinct, illuminating the edge of the hallway. "It's calling to us," I said, my voice trembling. Before we could decide our next move, a sudden crash reverberated through the house, shaking the walls. "They're coming," I shouted, leading Rachel towards the source of the glow, each step echoing like a drumbeat of panic. As we raced down the hallway, I had no idea what awaited us, but I was determined to find out. The truth had become our only chance for survival, and it was time to uncover it whatever the cost. I reached the end of the hallway, my heart hammering against my ribcage. The box sat there, glowing eerily in the dim light, its intricate carvings catching the faint flicker like a beacon in the dark. I hesitated, glancing back at Rachel. Her face was pale, and I could see the fear etched into her features. "Do you really think it contains answers?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. Rachel nodded, though doubt lingered in her gaze. "It has to. It's the only thing tied to whatever is going on." As I moved closer, the air grew colder, wrapping around us like a shroud. I could feel chills prickling at my skin, warning me to turn back. But I couldn't. Panic surged within me, coagulating with determination. I had to know. I knelt before the box, my fingers trembling as I reached out to touch the surface. It felt warm, almost alive, almost like it was breathing. Cautiously, I lifted the lid, wincing as the creak echoed in the stillness. Inside, small artifacts lay scattered: trinkets, photographs, and mementos. Each object was familiar but held a weight I didn't fully understand. A pendant of Rachel's grandmother. A toy I had as a kid. Childhood photographs of us both. What are all of these doing here? I breathed, confusion settling deep in my gut. Rachel leaned closer, her eyes wide. They're pieces of our past. She picked up a photograph, our faces lit with laughter and innocence. But why? What does it mean? Before I could respond, a shadow darted past the corner of my vision, momentarily breaking the heavy stillness of the room. I whipped around, feeling the panic claw at the inside of my chest. Did you see that? Rachel's eyes widened again, this time with realization. It's them. They're trying to stop us from uncovering the truth. I turned back to the box, heart racing as the shadows swirled closer, whispering unintelligible words that felt like an icy grip on my thoughts. We have to look deeper, I said firmly, as fear bathed my resolve. I began to sift through the items, desperate for anything that could shed light on what we were facing. As I reached the bottom of the box, my fingers brushed against something hard and cold. It was a key, an old, iron key that seemed to hum in my palm. What is this? I mumbled, my heart racing. That's not just any key, Rachel realized, her voice edged with urgency. It's the key to the old well behind my childhood home. My grandmother always told stories about it. What stories? I asked, drawn in by her sudden intensity. The ones about the darkness that lived below. The ones we were never supposed to talk about. A rush of panic surged again, this time mixed with curiosity. We need to get to that well. It might lead us to the answers, I said, feeling the pull of the unknown. The shadows hissed around us, anger boiling as they formed shapes that blocked the hall. We can't let them stop us, Rachel cried, determination sparking in her eyes. Then everything shifted. The box began to rumble, and the shadows surged forward, their whispers gaining volume, a cacophony of warnings and threats. I felt Rachel's grip tighten on my arm, and we both knew we had to make a choice. I took a deep breath, readying myself for whatever lay ahead. We're going to the well, I declared, looking into her eyes. Whatever it takes. But just as we turned to flee, the shadows lunged, filling the room with an oppressive darkness. With one last glance at the box, I exhaled, knowing the truth was out there, waiting. The question was, would we survive long enough to find it? When the shadows lunged, my heart raced, but adrenaline kicked in. I grabbed Rachel's hand and pulled her toward the hallway, the air vibrating with uncertainty as we fought against the darkness that twisted around us. Keep moving, I shouted, barely able to hear myself over the frantic whispers that seemed to echo from every corner. The front door loomed ahead, but the shadows threatened to cut off our escape. As we neared the door, the darkness coiled tighter. I could almost feel its breath, icy and stinking of despair. Don't look back, I yelled, though fear gnawed at me. I could sense something substantial, something like a presence familiar yet alien, right behind us. We burst through the door into the dim light of the living room, but it wasn't safe. Shadows poured in like a flood, filling every crevice, trying to engulf us. I could see the outline of the front window, the way the moonlight fought against the encroaching dark. Now, I urged Rachel. We dashed toward the window, our bodies fueled by raw fear as I fumbled with the lock, desperation surging through me. Felt like an eternity. Come on, Rachel cried, glancing back. They're getting closer. With a final click, I threw the window open. The sharp breeze rushed inside, a breath of fresh air amidst the suffocating atmosphere. Climb out, I urged, scrambling to get myself through the opening. We tumbled into the cool night, landing in a heap on the grass. I looked back at the glowing window, half expecting the shadows to reach out after us. But nothing followed. A blanket of stillness draped the air around us as I pulled Rachel to her feet. Where do we go? She gasped, winded from both the sprint and the shock of it all. The well, I directed, heart pounding as clarity began to settle. We have to find it. Your grandmother's stories might mean something. We took off across the backyard, the moon illuminating our path. My mind raced, piecing together the bits of knowledge I had from the box, the whispers, everything urging us forward. The well was just behind my childhood home, not far, but what lay there I could only guess. Did you hear them? Rachel whispered breathlessly, only slightly ahead of me now. Those voices? Yeah, I replied, trying to keep my urgency at bay. I think they need us to find the truth. We can't just run away. Maybe that child, she murmured, her expression shifting. Maybe they meant we could set them free. We reached the edge of the tree line, where I remembered the old well stood in a clearing, forgotten and overgrown. A sense of foreboding washed over me, but I pressed on. The whispers that had haunted me were now just a distant memory, yet I could still feel the tension tightening around us. Finally, we stood before the well, a structure covered in cracked stones and creeping vines. The gaping hole was dark, almost inviting, a stark contrast to the moonlit woods surrounding us. "Are you ready?" I asked Rachel, taking a deep breath to steady my nerves. She exchanged a glance with me, and the weight of everything we encountered loomed in the air. "We need to go down there, don't we?" "I think so," I quipped, hesitant but resolute. "If the darkness has answers, we need to face it." After a moment of silence, she nodded. "Okay." Together, we edged closer, peering into the well. The shadows danced within its depths, an inky pool that seemed almost alive. I felt that same pull as I had with the box, an insistent whisper coaxing me to descend. "Let us go," I muttered, gripping the rusted handle of the worn bucket. One heartbeat at a time, we slid down the rough stones, darkness enveloping us as we descended further. The air grew cooler, damp shadows curling around us. "Is it getting darker?" Rachel asked, voice trembling. "Probably," I managed, "but we have to keep going." As we reached the bottom, the world opened up to a cavernous space. The sound of dripping water echoed in the silence, immediate yet eerily distant. The atmosphere hummed with an energy that seemed to pulse through the walls. "What do we do?" Rachel's voice quivered as we stood in the dim glow, the depths of the well threatening to swallow us both whole. "Find the heart of the night," I repeated, recalling the Shadow's words from moments before. The cavern pressed in on us, the whispers from before returning, swirling like leaves caught in a storm. Both of us stood still, breath hitching as we waited for something to happen. Would we find the truth? Or would we become a part of this dark mystery forever? In the distance, a light flickered, a small glow that beckoned us further down the path. Hope mingled with fear. Whatever happened next, I knew our decision, whatever truth lay hidden, was worth the risk. I looked to Rachel. "Ready?" "Ready," she nodded, though there was fear in her eyes. Together, we pushed forward into the anticipation of the unknown. The well's secrets awaited. As we stepped deeper into the abyss, the flickering light pulsed, almost like a heartbeat, drawing us into its enigma, where the boundary between darkness and truth blurred into one. Once we crossed that threshold, there would be no turning back. Whatever awaited us would finally expose the truth, the heart of the night.